Hi, welcome to Actual Spinster. This video that I'm about to share with you is actually one I made quite a few months ago now, and it's also not comprehensive. It's going through what I read during my master's degree that happened in 2019 to 2020, so it was a while ago. I don't have memory of all of the things that I read, and I don't have physical copies of all the things I read. But what I will do is, like I said about one of the modules I took, I'll just put everything from each module in the description box in case you're interested in checking that out. There's a couple Edwardian books that I didn't talk about, and there's also a lot of postmodernist stuff that I didn't talk about because I don't like that stuff generally. And also that was a really disrupted term actually, I think, because of strikes and COVID. So yeah, I hope you enjoy that, and I really enjoyed going back through and thinking about these books, so I hope it's in some way interesting. And also, I don't think I ever said, but my master's degree was called Literature and Modernity 1900 to present day, so that's the framework of the whole degree and the choices in terms of modules. Cool. Hi, today I thought I would make a video about the books I was reading on my master's course. Yeah, I don't know, I thought it might be interesting. It's a kind of a way to, as well, to talk about modernism, because it was a master's course specifically focused on books published between 1900 and present day. And yeah, the year was kind of split into two sections, so there was a modernism section and also a post-modernism section. And I did 2 modules per term, and then a dissertation. Actually, I think I did a third module too, which was much less important and was just research skills and stuff, but not going to talk about that one because it's not we read any text for it. Yeah, in the first term we did Modernist Aesthetics Part 1, and I also then did an elected module which was called The Long Summer, which was Edwardian texts, and the Edwardian era is 1901 to 1910. I want to say, yeah. And then the second term I did a module called Modernist Aesthetics Part 2, which looked at postmodernist text basically, and it also included a book that was published 2019, I want to say. Oh no, which I just sent downstairs, of course. Anyway, and I also that term did a module called Green Thoughts, which was about green poetry, eco poetry. I'm not entirely sure if I would have signed up for it if I had realised that it was all going to be poetry, but I did really enjoy the module generally, even though I'm not actually that big of a fan of poetry. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the Modernist Aesthetics Part 1. That was 2, but Part 1 module. So we studied a range of texts, probably from 1900 to 1940, I would say, and yeah, these are them. So there was Under Western Eyes by Joseph Conrad, which is a book about politics. It's about a young Russian student who gets involved in anarchist politics, I want to say, and then gets in trouble. I don't really think Joseph Conrad understands political ideology, specifically leftist political ideology, and I really don't like Conrad because Heart of Darkness is just the most virulently racist piece of literature that has been lauded continually. It's forever, just so much. It's too much. Yeah, I don't know, it was not great. Also for that module I studied My Antonia by Willows, which I have spoken about. This is what the cover was many times on my channel before actually, because I do find it an interesting and challenging text, and I also think it's quite a queer text and has been referenced actually a lot in lots of different books and things. And I was even just thinking the other day that maybe The Blazing World by Siri Hustvedt with Harriet Burden is a reference to Jim Burden as well, and Jim Burden's potential gender trouble. This is a book about Antonia, who is I can't remember anyway, but she's one of the people who emigrate to America, and Jim meets her when he's growing up, they're growing up together, but she's slightly older than him. It's basically about her through his eyes, which obviously tells us a lot about him too. And yeah, he's anyway, it's kind of a coming of age thing, kind of, I don't know, there's just so much in it, especially around, I think, white settler, the way white settlers tell history, and then also gender identity, queer identity, all sorts of things like that, authorship, womanhood. We also read A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man by James Joyce. I hated this, very much not a fan. I just find it so misogynistic. It's sort of just unbelievably aggressive, and I don't think James Joyce is doing anything particularly interesting, on top of the fact that he's just copying Dorothy Richardson. But anyway, I think 3 women speak in this, and one of them is his mother, who is also the Virgin Mary, and it's just bad, you know? Then we've got Catherine Mansfield's Selected Stories, which we didn't read all of these, but we did read a bunch. We definitely read Bliss, Prelude, I think. Oh, The Late Colonel, what's that one that's quite famous? The Daughters of the Late Colonel, I think that's a really good one. I think we read Life of Mar Parker too. The Voyage, The Garden Party. No, we didn't read The Voyage, we read At the Bay, The Garden Party. I would say that, like, with Catherine, with KM, like, I really like her, and I think generally I like what she is doing, but I don't love it, and none of her stories particularly stand out to me except from Daughters of the Late Colonel. And I haven't read all of them, but I have read quite a few. Like, I read this other collection, which is a Penguin collection, which starts with The Garden Party, as well as some more ones in here. And yeah, I don't know, they're quite like, they're almost kind of understated, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. I think it's really interesting how Virginia Woolf is like very jealous of Catherine Mansfield for the way that she wrote, and I like, you know, I don't know, I just like, I support her, but I'm not sure if I love her work very much. But I mean, I'm very interested in like her bisexuality and her family relationship and her sickness, and yeah, I don't know. Also, I really like this portrait of her. I think it's lovely. Even though, you know, the book itself is like not great. It's not great, although I guess this is like the updated version, which they've clearly upped their design game. We also read A Passage to India by E.M. Forster, which I have spoken about before as well, and I did not like it very much. I don't really know what to say else about it. It is written quite nicely, just like most of Forster's work is, but it's, yeah. I do think that there's a reason why there was a massive gap from 1910 to 1924, I want to say, between his publications. And obviously part of that was that he was writing Maurice, and then, yeah, he came out with this book about India, and yeah, it's just pretty racist, I think, even though it's been lauded as a post-colonial masterpiece. Maybe not quite that, but like definitely post-colonial. And how much post-colonial do you have to be post-colonial? Because it seems like the bar is very low. So yeah, but I don't have a copy of that anymore. So something that I loved reading on the course was Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston, which is just like a coming-of-age story about Janie, which starts when she's about 16, and then she kind of travels around America and falls in and out of love, and it's just about her life. It's just written, I think, beautifully. I did listen, well, I read and listened at the same time, because it is it written in dialect, or there's definitely like dialect is being spoken, and yeah, it's not fully written, but like the dialogue, so it did make the dialogue easier to understand. And I also think it helped me with like the rhythm of this book, which is very like lyrical and melodic, I guess. And that's really lovely. I loved it. I thought it's just like very romantic, and also it does still engage with like race and racism. It was written in the 1930s. So yeah, it was really lovely to like sort of end with that. We were supposed to read Good Morning Midnight by Jean Rhys, but classes were disrupted by strikes, so that was never a main book to read, and I don't actually think I ever fully read it. I read parts of it, but then I stopped. And so yeah, I wouldn't say I have that many opinions about it, apart from the fact that I think had I read the whole thing, I probably wouldn't have liked it that much. But yeah, for my Edwardian module, we read some stuff. Some of it was bad and some of it was good. As is that kind of thing want to be. One of the books we unfortunately read was A Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, which honestly, impressively, I had like avoided up till then, and yeah, it's just bad, awful, hate it, don't want to talk about it. We also read Major Barbara by George Bernard Shaw, which is a play about socialism and capitalism and the co-option of anti-capitalism into capitalism. It's very cynical, and I think it is supposed to be funny, but we didn't see it, and I think maybe it would have been maybe a little bit funny, but not really a fan of George Bernard Shaw, but I do think like it's an alright play. And what else did we read? We read a bunch of kids' books, including The Railway Children by E. Nesbit, which is fun. I liked it. I had definitely read it before, but just not for a really long time. We also read Wind in the Willows, which again I had read before, but not for a very long time. Again, class was disrupted by strikes, so I think we were supposed to read, what's it called? Mr. Polly. So H.G. Wells' book about Mr. Polly. One of my favourite books from the module, which is downstairs and I'm not going to get it out of a bunch of boxes, but is The Old Wives' Tale by Arnold Bennett, which is this very big book. It's like 600 pages. And yeah, I had to read that in a week, so that was quite intense. And it's about this family, specifically these two sisters, Sophia and Constance, I think, and it literally just follows their lives, and it's starts in probably what, like the 1850s, I think, all the way up to the 1910s. It was published in 1908, I think. And yeah, it's just a really big book, but really great, and I really enjoyed it. We also read my favourite book of all time, one of them, Ian Forster's Howard's End, and yeah, I'm not going to speak much about this because I've definitely spoken about this a lot, and we all know that I love it. For the Green Thoughts module, I only have a couple of the actual physical books because a lot of it was, you know, snippets of things and extracts is the word. But I think what I'll do is I'll leave like a list in the description with all of those extracts. For the collections that I have, we read, oh, and there's also one called Bee's Journal by Sean Borrowdale, I think, and that was fine. It's about bees, obviously. Like, some of those poems were better than the others. We read this one called Fossil by Maya Chowdhury, which is about, well, in part about kind of like, oh, what's the big time? What's the word where it's like a lot of time? Deep time, that's what it's called, deep time. So it's, yeah, about fossils and stones, and it's very haptic, and it's very interesting. I definitely, you know, I mean, I still wasn't as enamored with this poetry as some poetry I do love, but that is partially because I feel like most poetry is kind of like this for me, and then some poetry like peaks, and then, you know, the rest is just like, and that's fine, like poetry. And then obviously some poetry is very bad and it's just like here. But I wrote a note here that says ice as an archive, so there's a poem called Microbial Museum, and about rivers and the formation of rivers. Also, I think some of it is about borders, and yeah, a lot of it is speaking from a perspective of these like massive and very old rocks and things, so there's that. We also read this collection called Swims by Elizabeth Jane Bennett. I actually don't think we got the class on this one. I think this one was one of the ones that was disrupted by strikes, but I read it because I wrote my final essay on it, or one of the things on it. Oh yeah, there's another collection that I've never owned physically that I love, and I've definitely mentioned a lot on here, so again, I'm not going to go into it, but that's That Winter the Wolf Came by Juliana Sparr. But yeah, this is about a collection of swims, like wild swims, that Elizabeth Jane Burnett took, as well as grief about her father. I think it's good. I think it's an enjoyable collection. Yeah. Especially, I think, if you like swimming and if you like wild swimming. And then we have this, which is Corpse Whale by Djin Nanak Okpik, who is an Inupiat poet. And I think this collection is really great. I would love to reread it, actually. I think there's a kind of slippage between words and bodies and beings, and it is also very tactile, and that's where I'm gonna end it. No, it's also about family and skin and, yeah, death, but kind of like in a I'm not sure if I would say it's really about death. Death is simply another state of being, maybe, in these poems. I would like to reread that to confirm or deny whether that is an accurate description. But anyway, yeah, so I definitely would recommend this. I think it might be a bit hard to track down, but yeah, I think it's got this great cover. I'm really glad that I read this as part of the module, because I definitely wouldn't have heard out about it or anything otherwise. I only have one book from my post-modernism module, Modernist Aesthetics 2, here right now, but we did read Nights of the Circus by Angela Carter, which I wrote my essay on, and I'm not going to get that book out, like, I've looked at it too many times. Yeah, I don't know, that book is like it's quite hard to feel, or I feel like it's quite hard to feel one way or another about it, because it's got some really interesting stuff, and it's also got some very racist stuff, and yeah, it's from like 84, I think, so is it one of her first? No, I think it's maybe like middle range of Angela Carter's stuff. So anyway, I have got this collection of poems by Elizabeth Bishop, which is a lovely collection. Is it all her poems? I think it might be all of them. And she's, yeah, this American poet. Yeah, I think her poems are full of grace, and she was queer, and I think you can tell from some of her poems. Yeah, they're nice. We didn't read many in comparison to how many there are, but we did read a few. I think my favourites probably are, what's the one with the... I've read Insomnia on this channel before, which I obviously do like. At the Fish Houses is maybe one of her most famous. Yeah, and I love this. At the Fish Houses has, it is like what we imagine knowledge to be. Dark, salt, clear, moving, utterly free. Drawn from the cold, hard mouth of the world. Derived from the rocky breast forever. Flowing and drawn, and since our knowledge is historical, flowing and flown. I hope you have a lovely day when you're seeing this, and sorry for being like to the side all the time. I don't know, it's just, that's what felt comfortable, I guess. And I will see you when I see you, and I'm so sorry about the noise. The lawn is being mown, so that's the noise. Bye!